Testing the audio. Yo, there he is.
What's up?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Okay, yeah, I can hear you. This is my first YouTube live, by the way. So it is recording and it is live. It's a slightly different link than I think the one we sent out because I'm doing it through a different platform than just straight through YouTube Live. So it is working, so that's great. Thanks for hopping on. Are you at your house right now?
Yeah, I got to delete my Instagram link that I told everybody to jump on.
My bad. If you send out the same link that I just sent you, then it should work. It should work.
Cool.
But sweet. So of all days to do this, it is December 31st, 2025.
The day the world ends.
It's, yeah, right before the world ends. It's been a very interesting real estate market in Utah, but also nationally. So I think this is a perfect time to talk about that. A lot of people that we work with are either relatively new to Utah, a lot of first-time home buyers, a lot of people unfamiliar with real estate, but also a lot of people too that have operated in completely different markets like we had during COVID. Whereas in 2025, it was just so different. So I thought it'd be helpful, especially talking to someone like you. And for anyone that doesn't know, Michael sells a ton of real estate, another local agent in Salt Lake City, runs the largest team in Utah, one of the largest teams in the US. We've worked together for a number of years. That is a sick setup, by the way. I hope you plan on drinking all of that alcohol tonight. That is quite the little wet bar you got set up there.
I'll probably drink it my whole life.
Okay. Well, at least drink some of it tonight for New Year's because that's quite the setup.
Are you drinking? Or are you sober right now?
I don't know because I don't know who's watching this live. So just in case, I'll say I'm not.
Shout out Utah, baby.
Shout out Utah. Yeah.
Wow, my hair slicked back.
There you go. I think either way, you look professional. I'd buy a house from you for sure. Also, we have college football playoffs later today, so like I'm going to keep us on time.
Hey, shout out Kyle Whittingham.
Oh man, yeah. For any college football fans, I'm so happy he went to Michigan. A little bit sad for University of Utah. They're probably going to poach all their best players, is my guess, but we'll see.
I felt like Adam Schefter a couple weeks ago.
I know, just making bold predictions.
Let's get to it.
Let's get to it. So I got kind of a rough outline pulled up, but I would love to get your perspective on this. I have a strong opinion about some of the stuff. We'll do a quick recap of 2025 and kind of what we're seeing, like boots on the ground, and just all the people we talk to, and the fact that we have the largest team in the state. I think we have a really good pulse on the market because we just see so many transactions. Shout out to the Perry Group. We just set a record in 2025, most homes sold in 1 year by any team.
Do we have any idea what we're going to sell? Finish at?
No, we're over 1,500, I think, right?
Yeah, way over. I think we might hit 16.
Wow, that's awesome. That's huge. But 2025 was weird, right? Like it wasn't necessarily a market crash like a lot of people expected. I don't know if people just thought like home prices were going to come down 20, 30%. They did come down a little, but not nearly as much as people thought. What's your perspective
on why they didn't come down?
On why they didn't come down, and like, I mean, we came down maybe a little bit, like 2 or 3%, but we didn't come down 20, 30% like people thought. We hear it all the time, like, I'm going to wait to buy till the market crashes. We saw an influx in inventory, but we didn't necessarily see home prices come depleting down.
Yeah, I think it was really interesting for me, and I think I didn't see 20, 30%, but I saw, in my opinion, I thought it would come down more just because I've been in this 9 years, and then I have my parents and in-laws who were in it in 2008. So I think you hear these stories of just assuming the absolute worst.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this was the first year in the 9 years I've sold real estate that was genuinely like, I can't sell my house and I don't really care. It's always been, for every year that I've been in it, when someone decides to sell their house, that house is selling no matter what. If it's asking price, above asking price, 20% below.
Yeah.
But I think this was the first year, myself included, where it's like, yeah, I'm going to try and sell everything I have, but it doesn't necessarily, I don't remotely need to sell it. And that's, I think, the first time we saw that in a while. And that's fundamentally why I think prices didn't come down. I mean, you just have people who like would love to sell, but they really don't need to.
I mean, what's that stat? Like 40% of people have like paid off homes. So they're not in a position where I got to sell because I can't afford this house anymore. That's not the case, right? And most people that bought in the past, even if they didn't pay it off, they refied when we had super low rates. And so they're not in a position where they have to. I'm going to start this by quoting the broke agent. Posted this on Instagram earlier today, and this is just so perfect. And I'm gonna read this off. If I knew how to put it on the screen, I would. It's 2025. It's the end of 2025. Sellers think it's 2021. Buyers think it's 2008. The appraiser thinks it's 2019. The media thinks there is a housing crisis. Social media thinks BlackRock is buying up everything and that it's all rigged. Housing affordability is being used as a political football, and real estate agents get blamed for all of it.
Amen.
I think
the only one that might be right, weirdly enough, is the media on this one. I do think there's a housing crisis, but spot on. Gosh, there was one that was my favorite. It was after appraisers. Oh, politically, yeah. Housing's turned political somehow.
Yeah, and I think both of us, and probably a lot of real estate agents across the country, would probably say this. I had more listing appointments this year than I've ever had in my career. I also had more listings that didn't sell and that were pulled off the market, or we canceled the listing agreement, right? Like agents getting fired, right? People hear about that on the news of like expired listings, like agent got fired, the house didn't sell. But you're right, because of so much equity gain and because, hey, let's test the market kind of a concept with sellers, and it ends up not selling for how much they think they should get because maybe they're still in that 2021 mindset. I had more canceled listings this year than I've ever had, like maybe all years combined. And that was an anomaly, I felt like.
Yeah, Sue, I had the exact same, and I think it's the first time. Typically, when a listing cancels, my beg/urge, and I genuinely think it's the best thing for them to do, is test the market again, like 6 months later.
Yep.
This is, I think, is the first time where I'm saying, like, I don't think the market's going to be bad, but if you have the ability to rent your house for 2 years, like someone will pay you a 2-year contract, I probably would do it. Like, I don't see a downside if you don't need your equity, just because, I mean, the rental market will probably go up, but I don't see the housing market. I don't see it going down, but I just continue to see frozen, like, as uncertainty. But we'll get into that a little later.
I had more conversations with sellers this year telling them not to list their home than I ever have. And often it was like, if you bought this time in, say, 2022, our pricing right now, at least in Utah, and this is probably true across the country, our pricing in Utah is about where we were mid to end of 2022. So every time I did a listing appointment and I saw when they bought the house, if I saw that timeline, I immediately was like, oof,
Yeah.
They're going to be losing money after they're paying commissions and closing costs. And that was true every single time. I would go to the listing appointment. I'm like, hey, if you have to sell right now, I get it. I'll do what I can to minimize your loss. But there were quite a few sellers that wanted to sell, that were willing, able sellers that were going to take a loss
Yeah.
if they've only
Yeah,
owned
like
it.
especially these new construction that were getting credits. I mean, like you have so many people in that world who are upside down, and thank
Mhm.
God their payments are low, but
Yep.
they will not be sellers for a long time.
Yeah. And something to really understand is when 2-1 or temporary buy downs became a thing in like end of 2022, 2023, those timelines are now up. So all those
Yeah.
guys that got interest rates like I did, like a 7.25 interest rate, and you're like, oh, do a 2-1 buy down, you push the can, kick the can down the road. Well, that timeline is now up. Anyone who got temporary interest rates in 2022, 2023 is now, those interest rates have now ballooned, and now they can no longer afford the house.
Yeah.
Talk to me more about new construction. This is an interesting phenomenon in Utah where, because Salt Lake County is pretty much built out, we don't have a ton of new construction in Salt Lake County, with the exception of maybe the southwest corner of the market, Harriman, South Jordan, Riverton, Bluffdale. But now sellers are having to compete with
Yeah.
builders, because a builder can be like, hey, here's, like these Edge Homes or Ivory, or really all these builders are like, hey, here's X dollar amount or X percentage that we're going to give you. And builders kind of have to do that right now. So what does that look like for sellers having to compete not only with other resale homes, but now new construction?
Oh, it's brutal. And I think you're absolutely, let's say you bought in 2023, so I essentially would call that new construction-ish. You're competing against a brand new product, which historically sells at a premium,
Mm-hmm.
and chances are the price is the exact same, if not a little lower or higher, depending on the exact product. But you can guarantee that monthly payment is cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and if I own a couple, again, what I would call new construction units, 2020 and after, I will not sell those for probably decades, genuinely, until
Yeah.
that neighborhood like doesn't have
Yeah.
a new construction thing around it.
That's right. Yeah. Because if you bought in 2023 and someone could buy the exact same house, same floor plan, or very close to it, but it's brand new, 2025 or 26, and the builder's like, well, here's 5% concessions, like, it's kind of a no brainer.
Yeah,
Um,
and then a little bit to that as a buyer, like pay attention, history repeats itself.
mhm,
And I'm not a huge new construction like incentive person, from the perspective of like I'm get the best deal. I'm definitely not I'm not buy a house because you can afford the monthly payment.
mhm,
And so those are the options I would really look at if you're looking for a home, is explore the existing built, understanding they cannot sell for more than what these new constructions are. And
mhm,
can you use that as leverage?
mhm.
And then if you are going to buy new construction, I think the play is like I actually think there is light at the end of the tunnel. I do think rates are going to come down. But like I said a minute ago, history repeats itself. You very well could be the exact same seller if you plan on selling, where new construction, again, is your problem 2 years later after you bought.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would also say 2025 was one of those years, looking back, I got some of the best deals I've ever gotten for buyers,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
because there's sellers out there, there always will be, that need to sell because they're going through a divorce, they just got a job transfer, whatever it is. Like, I need to sell this house. I don't want to be a landlord, or I don't have the ability to be a landlord because rent increases haven't maintained pace with home prices. And man, were we able to get some amazing deals for buyers this year.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think right now, just ask. Like I've been mind blown. And this is where I think like the Perry Group and reputation helps, because I think there's like a price premium reputation.
Mm-hmm.
We have it, Sotheby's has it, like Compass nationally has it. Um, but I sold a couple of houses this year to where, let's say we were listed at 800. If someone came in at 7, they would have taken it in a heartbeat. But
Yeah.
they came in at 780 and we played that game. So I would really encourage you. You're in a market that is just like not fun for a seller. Play that game.
Yeah.
Don't be a bully, but play that game.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Let's take a quick step outwards and look at kind of the national market and what actually happened. Here, I kind of have 4 or 5 main points. Then we'd love to get your feedback. Number one, rates stayed higher than expected. I think a lot of what was happening in the news and the media at this time a year ago was like, oh, there's going to be several rate cuts. Trump's in office now, and they want the economy to boom. And in some aspects, it certainly has. Like the stock market has gone nuts. But rates were kind of what they've been the last couple of years. I mean, yeah, towards the end of the year, there was 2 or 3 rate cuts in a row from the Federal Reserve. But we're still around that like 6-ish%, give or take, on par rates. And it really, there wasn't a plummet to 5%, which probably would have caused every buyer and their mom to flood the market. We didn't really see that in 2025.
Yeah, 100%.
And then the point that you made, which was my second point, that buyers who are able to negotiate and be tactical with their decisions. Certainly, there is those neighborhoods that have always been competitive and kind of always will be. Specifically in Salt Lake City, you got some of those really prestigious neighborhoods that maybe prices have come down a little bit, but you probably sell more luxury than anyone else I know in the state of Utah. And it wasn't necessarily that same scenario where you're like lowballing the heck out of these multi-million-dollar homes, right? Federal Heights, the Avenues, those really popular areas, St. Mary's, East Bench, Olympus Cove, those neighborhoods are still really strong.
Yeah, and I think the luxury, and I got to say this right, because high price does not mean luxury, but I would really try and pay attention. Like if you're a buyer or a seller, like think of the net worth of that area. So like someone in Holiday, you could pretty much assume it's probably like generations of family money.
Yeah, totally.
And those are just the people they live in a beautiful house. They probably want to move to something newer and nicer or more remodeled. But that is the last person that will ever need to sell. And just because they can afford a second mortgage, one scenario, they can afford a second mortgage 10 times over and not even realize they have a second mortgage. Totally. Or they just don't want to do it because fundamentally we're trained not to have a mortgage that we don't live in. And so
there's probably also a little bit of an ego thing when you have a higher net worth. Like, I'm not going to take a massive loss on this property. I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah. Like, I mean, even me as a seller, like we had a flip to where I just didn't like the buyer. Like we ended up getting 2 offers. We got 2 offers. One offer was from a buyer I wasn't like super keen on just because he was rude. He was like, he knew what he was doing. He came in trying to lowball and then came up radically quick.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, we don't need to sell. So I think especially at that price, you emotionally got to be really careful with people.
Yeah, I'd agree. The third point here is inventory went up a ton between, if you look at, Utah real estate, this is why I tell buyers new to Utah, relocating to Salt Lake City area. We're very seasonal. If you look at our historical trends, our peak inventory, so our most active listings is the month of June, and it's kind of a bell curve. So the middle of that bell curve is June. We start to, come up April, May, June, it peaks, and then it's still relatively high, July, August, September. And then typically in the winter is when it really kind of flatlines. You don't see a ton of new inventory, although you will still see homes, hit the market December, January. But that's kind of been the trend. But the volume of homes, oh my goodness. So to put real numbers to this, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm going off memory, but our peak inventory for 2024 was like 9,500 homes, right? During COVID in 2022, when things were insane, to put this in perspective, it was about 2,000 homes on the entire Wasatch Front, right, across the MLS. We peaked at like 13,500 in 2025. That is a 40% increase in inventory in 1 year. So homes that hit the market in April, May, June saw so much active competition that the days on market went way up. Homes were sitting for longer. You saw a lot more price reductions than you've seen before. So what do you think was happening there?
That's I think the scary part. And I think that's where I turn into a major pessimist. Like I just really don't know how many years we can do this much longer without and we've spent what 20 minutes and 20 seconds talking about how sellers don't need to sell. Eventually, I have to believe there is an eclipse um, to where something happens. And you're hearing like I hate the word bubble. I don't think we're in a bubble. I don't even think we're in a bubble in the stock market. But you're hearing people talk about the stock market, how it makes no sense. I do think that's how people will talk about the real estate market a year
Mm.
from now. If we get to 20,000 homes, which I think we could this
Yeah,
year.
and stick around to the end because we'll go through our predictions for 2026, and one of those is like, what is inventory going to look like? But what was fascinating was typically once summer passes and you start getting into late fall, you start to see a pretty dramatic decrease in inventory.
Yeah.
That did not happen this year.
Till this month. Yeah.
We came
Literally
down
didn't
very
happen.
slowly, but we still had well over 12,000 active listings. We had over 11,500 active listings through, I believe, September, October, even November. And we're just now getting down to, I think as of right now, we're at 11,000, just over 11,000 as of this morning. Which again, you're talking 2,500 homes that have come down between June to December. But because the days on market were longer, it was not like we were seeing a bunch of new inventory. It was just current inventory sitting.
Yeah. And I think what I'm scared about, like I was 7 of those 2,500, and those 7 are sellers
Yeah, yeah,
next year. Like
yeah,
typically you're going into a new year thinking, oh, I have these cool listings coming to market. Like I have the same 7 plus we'll see if I get more.
yeah.
And
And
that's where I don't know. I get a dicey feeling
from a
about it.
real estate perspective, usually it's like, oh, I want as many listings as I can get. And this might have been the first year that I heard from other people in our industry say, I don't want more listings. I want more motivated buyers because that's
Yeah.
way easier to transact right now than it is listings. And there's probably some credence to that. And the last point I would make here is it's always been about affordability since rates have come up, but I would say even more so this year because now we're battling higher prices in Utah. I believe we're the sixth most expensive state in the US, and higher interest rates. So it kind of all became about affordability. Not those outliers necessarily in the luxury market that are just trying to find the right house in the right location. But for most buyers, I was having this conversation time and time again, which is we got to look at what's the monthly payment you need, and that's how we're going to structure the offer because it's not just about the purchase price. The interest rate plays such a bigger role mathematically that we got to look at how much down payment, what's the loan type, are we able to get seller concessions, are we able to take advantage of these builder incentives to buy the rate down. And that affordability conversation was so common.
Yeah. Yeah. So common. And I think that's going to be a thing for, I don't know, this gets political, but what you believe interest rates will be eventually one day. But I really could see for the next half decade us structuring house purchases around payments
Yeah,
because
totally.
everyone's going to think they're going to come down to 3 no matter what, just because they once were.
Yeah.
So I think
Yep.
until we see a decade or two of that not happening, that will
Yep.
be in the
Here
people's
was kind
head.
of the key takeaway, at least in the Utah real estate for 2025, was that the homes that were priced correctly, that were desirable in good areas, they were well kept, those still sold quickly. And that was what was so bizarre this year is there were some listings that were like took forever, multiple price reductions, couldn't get a good buyer. And then there's other homes where like I'm in multiple offers in the first week, both on the buyer side and seller side. And it was such a weird spectrum of listings. It wasn't one or the other, it was both.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was like
100%.
some homes sold very quickly if they were priced right, which is why pricing became so important. And you saw some of those, not to name certain companies, but you saw some of those companies, those home sellers and brokerages that were really, really common in 2021, 2022, they kind of drifted away.
Shout out to all my friends and homies.
There you go. Okay. Anything else you want to, before we kind of jump in here, like
No.
buyer behavior in 2025? was a heavy use of rate buy downs, asking for seller concessions. Um, I noticed people were kind of more willing to compromise more on the house than location. That old adage of like location, 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 I think is still very true in the Utah market, because there are just certain areas more desirable than others. You also saw big booms in especially Utah County. A lot of new construction, a lot of new communities popping up. What I tell people that are not from Utah is it went from this was just a dirt lot with nothing here to now it's the fastest growing suburb in the state, right? The Eagle Mountain, the Saratoga Springs, even southern Utah County, which used to be very, very rural, like Mapleton, Spanish Fork, Payson, those areas are booming. You have a lot of people moving there. You have a lot of companies moving to Utah. We saw a lot of continuation of that trend. If you think of specific companies, shout them out. But there was quite a few big businesses that were relocating to Lehigh, relocating to Salt Lake City. I know we get a lot of like employers from Goldman Sachs. They get relocated to the downtown area. So it seemed like it was a continuation of the same trends that we've seen the last few years, Michael, of like a lot of healthcare, a lot of tech, a lot of finance and business type industries. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and I think every city and state says that is happening to them. And you could read article after article about how your local city's the best. I think the one thing I would encourage when I get questions on, like specifically Salt Lake County, Utah County market,
Mm-hmm.
I think you have to give a lot of credit to Ryan Smith, who owns the Jazz
Mm-hmm.
and basically half of Provo in my mind. There's not, there are very few people with so much money and so much influence who have a desire to make their city better.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, you could look all around the world at all these sports owners. Like that's the easiest way to look. They don't care. Um, they they own teams in different places than where they live. I think he has a lot of credit of like you have someone who with a lot of power who
Mm-hmm.
is like directly advertising for the state of Utah. And I think if you're going to pitch to the side of why Utah economically has
Yep.
become so expensive and will
Mm-hmm.
continue becoming more expensive, a lot of credit to that guy of what he's
Well,
doing.
and another name out there are the Romneys, specifically Josh Romney. I mean,
Yeah.
he's a big advocate of even things you wouldn't think he's a big advocate for. Like he came and talked to our team about the Great Salt Lake and how they're trying to advocate for that from a political perspective of trying to protect the environment because that could be a doomsday scenario for people who
Yeah.
own and live in the Utah Valley. Is what happens if the Salt Lake dries up. And I mean, heck, this is a great example where it's like barely snowed once this year so far, and it's very dry, and we're not getting the water we typically get. And if that thing recedes, we might all be doomed.
Well, it's crazy. I mean, it was my wife's birthday, what, December 9th, and I think we went up and I'll just give some like real world scenarios how impactful like water and snow is. We stayed in Deer Valley in a condo. We paid 350 a night. In a condo at that time averages 1500 because it was a ghost town. There was no snow.
In
Nobody
Park
was
City, by the
there.
way, for people not familiar, really, really famous and desirable resort in Park City. But yeah,
Yeah, we're staying in a $7 million condo for
yeah,
$300 a night. Like,
yeah,
if
yeah,
we don't get snow, it is
yeah.
bad for this place.
It's bad for the economy. It's bad for the ski season. I mean, Utah relies heavily on tourism in the
Yeah,
wintertime. Heck, we've got the Winter Olympics, coming down the road, and the lack of water affects everything, not just the Great Salt Lake, but the Wasatch Mountains and the ski resorts and
yeah.
all the money tied to that. So
Restaurants,
it's
bars. I mean, it
all
the
of it.
drop down is
It's all
crazy.
tied. It's all tied together. And so having people like Ryan Smith pushing for the revitalization of certain parts of downtown and this bringing the NHL hockey team here and the guys like Josh Romney that are big advocates of trying to protect what we have.
Yeah.
I will say I feel like we have good. This is going to be perhaps um, not a popular opinion, but we probably do have good leadership
Yeah, I
for
agree.
the growth of Salt Lake City. So really quick, we'll kind of end on some predictions. Do you have any like strong, bold predictions for 2026 housing market? If not, I'll give you some of mine.
Yeah, I do. I think it stays similar and gets slightly worse. Like I could, yeah, go ahead and
Yeah.
then I'll go.
I think we're going to surpass last year's max inventory. We were at 13,500, but keep in mind we started at a much lower number. Tomorrow's going to be 2026, and we're already starting at 11,000. That means if that trend continues, we're probably going to surpass the inventory we had last year. So what is that potentially? What are the dominoes that fall from that? Well, buyers have more choices. That's great. Sellers maybe have more active competition, not even including the new construction that's potentially in their area. So maybe prices come down a little bit. I don't think we're going to see massive decreases in interest rates. I truly think we're going to stay around 6% the rest of the year. I don't, if it drops to 5.5, I think the market floods and prices go up 7%. But I
Yeah,
don't see that happening.
yeah, I don't either. Yeah, I think I have the same opinion. I think we get above 18,000 listings, maybe to 19, 20.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
20,000 listings. That would be, when was the last time Utah had 20,000 listings? Like
Never,
09?
never.
Never?
Yeah, we had 18 in
Wow.
'08 or '09.
Wow.
So I think that's territory that I don't really think is good for anyone.
Mm-hmm.
I think that many options for a buyer just confuses them, and that many options for a seller. I mean, it's obviously that's great for buyers long term.
Mm-hmm.
Sellers, that's not good for. And I think that's where prices could get dampened. And I just go back to what the conversation has been for the past year and a half. Like if you have a house, we need to present it better than anyone, and it still might not sell. And
True.
the conversation's as simple as that. And I completely agree with you on interest rates. The Bank of America CEO, I think it was 2 days ago, was on national news, and I thought this was just eye opening. It kind of like poked me, and I was like, "Ooh, you're exactly who you're talking to."
Mm-hmm.
He basically was like, everybody in the world now, because like Robinhood and Polymarket, you can bet on interest rates,
Mm-hmm.
thinks that like a Fed rate by a quarter is going to change people's lives. And he's like, it literally does nothing for anyone but like big banks, commercial lenders, commercial like skyscraper owners. And it
Yeah.
maybe there's a downfall, but he said like you will never feel that downfall
Yeah.
tangibly.
Yeah.
And so I think you're right. I don't think we see fives because I don't think the market wants to have fives again. Like I don't think it's good for the housing market to get crazy.
Yeah. And to clarify, if rates do come down, that's actually bad for buyers.
Yeah. Really bad.
It's actually really bad for buyers,
Yeah.
which is counterintuitive of what every buyer watching this might think of like, well, lower interest rate equals lower month. Yeah, but understand, dude, that when rates come down, that means affordability becomes easier. And because there's still such a high demand, something we haven't talked about yet in Utah, you will see home prices go up. And when you buy that house, we hate the term, uh, marry the house, date the rate, but it is true in the sense of you buy that house, that's your purchase price forever. Whereas that lower interest rate is really nice and sexy, uh, but it's going to come at the cost of a higher purchase price. That's
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah. And
So
I think national average in staying in your home is 7 years. If you get a bad deal on a home,
mhm.
just look at it like that. Like, all right, I'm here 7 years and I'll probably sell it. And I mean, I go back to my townhomes. Like, I really think people buy homes to make money in a lot of
Mhm,
scenarios. Like it,
mhm.
not necessarily investments, but I don't think I don't think people would buy homes if they could think 7 years later I'm going to sell for 50,000 more. I think they would question a lot more because they grew up with parents who doubled, tripled, quadrupled their money. And so I think that's
Very
just my
true.
encouragement to buyers is like, yeah, you got to care about monthly payment because it's how you live and you don't foreclose. But at the same
Yep.
time, like, I don't know, do not lock yourself into something that you shouldn't be like
Yeah.
absolutely in love with.
Yeah. Here's another prediction is I think, and we've seen this trend a lot. I've had a lot of buyers looking for that, basement mother-in-law apartment or that ADU, either attached or detached. I think you're going to see the loosening of ordinances to accommodate for more ADUs. Something that they're saying in California, where they can actually add like 3 ADUs now on a single family zoned property, like not even multifamily. Seattle is kind of leading the way with that, with their infill and trying to create more affordable housing. I think we're going to see a loosening of ADU restrictions and ordinances across Salt Lake County. Obviously, more vertical construction because there's nowhere else to go around here except up because we're totally landlocked. And you're
Are
going to
you
see
for
more.
the loosening for the
Yes,
general public?
I think I am, because if you think about it, it's a way for people to get into the housing market and subsidize their mortgage without having to necessarily have roommates in a traditional sense, but having their
Yep.
own living space. Probably half my buyers this year are looking for that mother-in-law basement apartment just so that they can bring in some rental income to make it more affordable. It's not ideal, but I think that trend is going to continue. Heck, there's even builders now, like I'll shout out R5 Homes. They're actually building homes completed already as a new construction with a basement apartment, or builders like Edge that are willing to do that for you upon closing, where you're not trying to hire contractors and do it afterwards. I think that trend continues. I think more and more builders are going to start offering that.
Yeah, there's a townhome development in South Salt Lake that I think is like first of its kind, where they're townhomes with a basement, like a true basement apartment entrance. So not like a mother-in-law that you could access like through a garage,
Sure.
but like literally like old school style Brooklyn apartment. One goes
Yep.
down, one goes up. And I'm
Yep.
like, I don't know how I feel about this, but
Yeah. Feels
it
very
gets
East
people into the
Coast.
market.
It feels very Boston. It feels
Yeah.
very big city to have that. But you know what? We kind of have to because
Yeah.
it's expensive. There's nowhere else to build. We still have high demand, and it's
Yeah.
really just an affordability issue. So
Yeah.
I think builders and city officials are going to have to get more creative with making homes, not necessarily building affordable homes, but allowing more creativity in how they construct homes to make it more affordable.
Yeah, I asked you if you were for it because I have a friend in Altadena where his home burned down, which is not one bit funny, but the result is like funny, funny from him.
Uh-huh.
He had a single family home that was zoned single family. He could have an ADU if he lived there. He can have like 4 to 6 units, standalone units on that like 0.15 acre lot. And I'm like, maybe that's just what America becomes.
Just a slumlord
Yeah.
with six young adults living in his backyard.
No, in a neighborhood that feels like Yale Crest, you're just becoming a commercial developer now.
Yeah, well, it's true, and I think especially in an area like Salt Lake, we're going to continue seeing that. But for example, like Eagle Mountain, you can get a lifelong permit for an attached ADU. You don't even have to renew it every year. Like that's the type of, hey, we're trying to incentivize people moving here.
Yep.
It's a rural area. It's going to get built up over time. We're going to create laws that make it really affordable for people to be willing to live further away from, city centers in Lehigh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Anything else?
No, that's
Cool.
fun.
All right. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Or I guess one last question. Sorry.
Yeah.
Give me a percentage the housing market goes up or down. What's your
Ooh.
percentage? Hold on. We're
Yep.
going to film this.
Oh boy. You're going to get
Okay,
me on record.
We're live on YouTube. What is
Okay.
the percentage you think in 2026 homes will decrease or increase?
Everyone who hears this is going to hate me. I think we go down 3 to 5% in 2026 because I think inventory goes up.
Completely agree. Yeah. 3 to 5%. What about in Willow Creek?
I don't know.
Give me an answer, Willow Creek.
It probably only goes down 2 to 3%.
Yeah. I think the same in St. Mary's. I think it goes down a little. Okay, cheers.
All right. See you, brother. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.